Okay, is this started?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, this one is actually just a quick PowerPoint slide before I go into the proper one. My files are actually ready for download from this location. Right. Now the topic that I'm actually going to discuss in this video session is actually regarding using JQuery client-side storage, persistent storage, which is IndexDB. IndexDB is actually a new way to allow us to go and use jQuery in order to code stuff and store and persist at the client end. Client end means that it can be on your web view device, right, which is the phone app on your mobile. Also, this knowledge that I'm actually going to share is also applicable for client-side Java scripting. For example, you notice that there are a lot of online desktop applications like building mind maps or like for example just now there's this called the JQuery mobile designers and all this one. So in order for them to go and remember what you have done, let's just say save as draft, right? They can actually persist all this information on the client side. Now in the past, right, using cookies is actually that was the past. Cookies right now is still very important, but this IndexDB right is actually another option. Okay, so Apache Cordova. Well, we all are actually trying to go and use Apache Cordova as a platform, right, in order to go and build JQuery mobile. But at the same time is that I'm also just sharing on it. I'm also trying to go and discover new tools. What are the other tools that are available to go and help us teach programming, especially seamlessly. Okay, so we have seen using Eclipse. We have seen using other tools. So this one, I'm just taking an opportunity to go and use Microsoft Visual Studio because in May for Insight, Microsoft actually released Visual Studio 2013 with universal app development capabilities. In other words, it has partnered with Cordova, so in order to build a full-scale version so that we can actually code Android applications, we can code iOS applications using Visual Studio. Okay, so let me see. So how it is actually done is that it is still using Apache Cordova. It's just that Microsoft Visual Studio actually became a very good IDE that wowed the audience during the Microsoft TED show on May. So this one is actually just a very brief copy and paste on what the Visual Studio wants to go and do. It wants to go and become an open source platform for building multi-device hybrid mobile applications using HTML, blah blah blah, and all this stuff. Okay, so of course, saying is one thing, we have to go and test. That's why, since this one is actually a sharing and discovering session, so I just go a dive on it. I installed Visual Studio 2013 Ultimate, and then after that, I use my own developer license in order to go and download, and install the thing. And just now, all the code that I've been using for the Eclipse so far, I actually just everything back inside here. But then after that, I just go and quickly do a quick build, on the device. Right, means that just go a bit back. If you want to go and convince me on a real device. Don't give me those kind of emulator. Right? Then I saw this thing, installing app on device. I said, wow, like that. Okay. At least right, it was encouraging for a beta version. In other words, it is still a beta. Right, it's still a beta. It's not. It's released for the developer to go and review and feedback. Okay, but in a matter of less than 4 months, right, it will be full scale already. So this one was actually quite encouraging. But of course, I also tried out with other emulators like Genymotion. Everything works quite fine. So this is actually what I'm going to cover today. In other words, I'm going use IndexDB, but at the same time is that I'm going to use this Microsoft Visual Studio in order to go and demonstrate the experimentations that I had on IndexDB. So altogether, there are 5 projects inside the zip file that if you download from the first slide. And I'm just going to quickly cover what I have done with it. And after that, I will review on the problems that we solved and also try to go and encourage things to remember. Okay, so this one is actually end of the slide I'm going to use. I'm not going to use PowerPoint slide as well. Right? And I need to go and switch back to the desktop. Which is okay. Every time here. Okay, just in order to go and share, right, so I'll just go by what is inside the Word document here. Now, in order to go and deal with IndexDB, of course, let's just say that this one is actually, after the term break, right? Then that is when we are going to cover the database. Then all the kids, right, are actually, let's say 3 weeks, right? Holidaying and all this stuff. Coming back, right, probably half of the things that we all taught, right, in the past 6 weeks are all forgotten already. So again, right, in order to go and do this, figure one is actually quite straightforward. You go to the JQuery.com in order to go and download the JQuery mobile, input files. Okay. Of course, the JQuery mobile input files, right, will actually come along with it, right, the standard JQuery files that it requires. If you take a look here. So we just need to go and analyze this one, the file structure, and I'll just actually copy and paste it into the Solution Explorer, something like Eclipse like that inside the Visual Studio. I just whack it in. Okay. So this is just a quick comparison of how I did it, right? Then after that, of course, when we all experiment something new, or when I prepare this one, I try to go and mentally imagine or simulate how this one is supposed to be taught with students. Okay, first, it is not possible for us to go and quickly jump into the content itself of the IndexDB. So just a quick warm-up, right, is and to ensure that all these links are working fine, right? All these links are working fine, which we have seen in other work before. Right, we just quickly go and build a simple interface, right, whereby it's just jQuery mobile is view. It's just the UI and the URL. Okay. So then, when doing this one, right, so let us actually take a look at the list view. Right. So this one is actually the list view, and this one again, right, is actually the index of HTML, very similar to Mr. Lopez. And these are actually all the these files, right, are not from Microsoft Visual Studio. I just downloaded it from the JQuery.com. Okay, if Microsoft Visual Studio is supposed to be a good editor, it should not control us anymore, developers anymore. Right, meaning that we can actually merge with whatever things that comes from the open source. Okay, so then after that, so if I were to try simulate teaching, right, I'll just get the students say, hey, quickly type out all this stuff in order to go and see whether or not we can display the list view thing, right? Then after that, I'll just actually do a quick emulator run in order to go and take a look. You notice that Visual Studio right, is actually working closely with Chrome working closely with Google in order to go and come up with Ripple emulator. Ripple emulator, right, you notice that it was less than how many seconds? I think less than 10 seconds, right? Okay. So this one is, you notice that you can still kill, and then after that you can send in geolocation data if you want to. Of course, I'm not going to try this one here because it might not work, right? Okay. Then you can also try other things. In other words, set the settings, right, for the mobile device. So so that the mobile device can be tested. Okay. So this one actually seems very promising. In other words, that I can actually like tap on this, tap on this, tap on this. So this one is actually quite good. So this is actually just to go and ensure that. So this simple project, right, is just a simple assurance from a learner point of view that the Visual Studio.NET does able to go and include all the open source Cordova thing and the JQuery thing, and then after that able to go and emulate it fast enough in a mobile device environment. Okay. Then after doing this one, of course, the next thing is that because in order to go and learn persistent storage, we need to go and come up with some skeleton UI. Crude example, create, read, update, and delete. Right? Of course, I did not actually proceed to the full-scale crude. I only do the create and the read. But you notice that here, right, so in other words, this example actually consists of 3 screens. The first screen actually consists of 2 simple buttons, whereby if the user clicks add, it will go to this screen, allow you to go and add the weight and the date of your measurement. And you can click the save in order to go and persist it on your device or on the front end. Then after that, you can also click on the cancel, come back to here, and then click on the view history. You can view all the records that you have entered. But of course, this you can actually tap on this one in order to go and either delete something else. But I did not. I only stop up to here only. Okay. Right. So, but the example will be enough for us to go and investigate the potential of the IndexDB. Now, in order to go and come up with this one, of course, inside the index.html, you will need to have 3 divs, 3 page row divs, right? The first div is going to have an ID of page main. The second div is going to have an ID of page add weight. And the third one is the page view history. Okay, so this one is actually the, of course, after building this one, right, if let's say that I get students to go and build this one, so it will be just another quick project, right, whereby just put in the code here, and of course this code here, right, can either we type it up, or actually we don't really type it up. I also use the JQuery. Right, the thing. But using the JQuery actually got this. Probably because last time, right, we have lack of tools, so we are very good typer. Right, so in other words, when there are problems, we can go into the code and take a look like what happened. Then the one I will bring to you shortly, what will happen next, what are the shortfalls of using the JQuery. Okay? So when I use the designer, so this one I actually use the designer to quickly go and do, and then use the theme roller quickly go and do one. Okay. So this one is actually just basically after the students maybe use the designer or what, right, then they will just start to go and run it on emulator again, right? It's quite fast, and then this emulator, right, is just basically trying to go and simulate the navigation. Okay, this one then cancel, then okay, this one is a view history. So this one is actually basically just checking out the UI whether everything is all stable, all the navigation is all okay. But besides that, if you take a look at the code here, right, actually, let me stop the debugger. Right. Besides that, right, you notice that it will lead to another project. After doing this one, right, let me close the skeleton. I'll just file open another project. This one is check for data experiment event bindings. Okay, this one is experiment event bindings, and this experiment event bindings, right? Let me actually just run on the emulator quickly, right? It is actually the next one, which is this one, experiment page init and page create. Because most of the time, especially when we are doing insert update delete, persisting information on the client side, right? coding needs to be very careful already, because once there's one line got problem, right, without good programming principles, I don't call it habits, I call it principles, follow the law, right, debugging can be killing, okay, debugging can kill. So this one, right, is that first step is that I've not even delved into the IndexDB yet, but actually, right, trying to go and give a quick highlight on the difference between page init and, because there are many pages. Right now we are doing functionalities on what? 3 pages with add record. Okay? So you notice here, I'm actually using the on key. Unlike JQuery in web, right? JQuery in web is by using the document.ready, right, in order to do a ready up. But in mobile development, right, we never use document.ready. We use document.on or document.lib, but I think document.lib has already been integrated. So we need to go and we need to go and have a good overview, right, of how the events are fired. Like when will the page create of this page headway. Page headway is actually the page that allows the user to go and add with. And this one is page main is of course the page one with the add and the view history button, the main page, the navigation page. So this one, I'm just telling the document, this entire HTML, right, that when page, that if page main, right, is initialized, right, fire the page init, means that my name, so that I can actually write out this one inside the console log. So if, let's say that this one, I do, let's say, so this one has already appeared already. So let's take a look at the binding events. Let me see, where's the console? This one is running, right? So view, then after that, I think I lost my console.
Or is it output?
Huh?
Or is it output?
Where?
There's the output, like besides the.
Oh yeah, debug output. Okay, yeah. I think it's the output. I think only. Okay, now.
Yeah. So that way using also.
Then after that, let me come back to the binding events here. No, let me come back to this one here. So I click add, I click cancel, I click view history, I click cancel. So if I come back to the Visual Studio here, this is not the output. Command window, no. Breakpoints, no. Call stack, no. Data tools operations, no. The intermediate window, it is somewhere here. It is somewhere here. This is actually where we should. Look at the debug. It's just that just now I was happily doing something that I closed it. But if things does not work well, I can always right click and then I can always open with the Google Chrome. Google Chrome also can see this one. If I click add, I click cancel. If I click view history, I click cancel. Then after that, if I go to the tools, and then after that I go to the JavaScript console, right? You will notice that like, this one here actually says that page main, because just now the first page was shown, so the page create was running, and page init was actually running page create. So this one is actually the order of how the event handlers are triggered. Why this one is important is because when we deal with data right now, we must know when are we supposed to go and start connecting to the database, like web development like that. Right? We cannot actually just tie to the database or add record to the database, right, using the inappropriate event handlers. But then after dealing with this one, this is just sharing only, because when we all try to go and self-learn new technologies, right, the most important thing besides the structure like array, for loop, which we are already confident, is always the event handling. Okay. For the event handling, right, we notice that so this documents, right, is just showing the behavior of this one, the outcome of the experiment, and we notice that, right, that the page init was deprecated. page init was deprecated, meaning that, that in another 1 more year time, you are not going to see this event fire anymore. It will be totally not supported. That's why, to answer Justin, why there's no textbook, is that it is not possible to have a textbook or any reading materials because there are a lot of deprecation happening these few cycles here right now. So page init gone. So in other words, I can only use page create, and you will tell why I'm going to use the page create, because this is also the place where I can bind elements. Like when I click a button, I want to go and handle the click event of the button. So this one where I am supposed to go and do the binding, you are supposed to go and do the binding during the page create event. Okay. So these are the important stuff that like for example this one here. This one is just a very short example. After the event handling experiment up there, we will know that, oh, okay, I should not use page init anymore. I should use page create. Then inside this page create, this is how I should actually bind a button. But a button in JQuery UI is often the A tag, the hyperlink. So if you are using the hyperlink, you must remember to use the e.event before to make sure that the hyperlink does not act like a hyperlink. Okay. Then after that, this one is actually to just as a message in order to go and show whether or not we have successfully found the button. Okay, so all the event handlers have already been experimented in the previous project. Then that leads to the next project. The next project is the really heavy lifting, weightlifting on dealing with the database already. The previous project was just experimenting the UI, experimenting the screen navigation, experimenting events to go and decide where is the best appropriate place to go and put code. Because it's a jungle out there when people sharing the IndexDB link. But out of all this jungle, the most trusted website is the developer Mozilla.org. But this one has a very, very solid, extensive guide on how to go and use the IndexDB. Probably because Mozilla main business is browser, like other companies, got phone, got this one. So Mozilla took this one very seriously and prepared a lot of good write-ups. Okay, Mozilla Developer Network. Okay, so for the add record inside the Mozilla shape, no matter how you code, it cannot run away from this for structure. Open the database, create an object store. Now, create an object store is actually something that object store is equivalent to the database table in your DBMS. Object store. Okay. Then after that, but how the database table is actually being created on the web browser, actually can only happen when this upgraded needed event is triggered. You can only create a table inside the database when this event is created. So it's triggered. So how this one can be triggered, I can show you later. Then the third one is start a transaction. Start a transaction, like our Eclipse code on start a transaction is just basically where you start querying the database. But this transaction object is special in terms of its life cycle. Then after that, this one is